Welcome to the Archive Speaker Meeting. My name is Nick. I'm an alcoholic. Can we please have a moment of silence for the alcoholic who is still suffering, followed by the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. We ask that you please take a moment now to silence your cell phones out of respect for your fellows. And we will now pass the basket in honor of our 7th tradition, which states every AA group ought to be self-supporting, declining outside contributions. And $15 will go towards rent of this meeting space, and the rest will go to District 17. Then the AA Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. All right, and everybody, welcome to the Racine Area Archive Speaker Meeting, consistent with Alcoholics Anonymous General Services Archives mission. Our purpose is to document permanently the work of Alcoholics Anonymous, to make the history of the organization accessible to AA members and other researchers, and to provide a context for understanding AA's progression, principles, and traditions. We will meet here at the Grove Club the last Sunday of every month. The first half of the meeting will be a Q&A, question and answer period, followed by a break. After the break, our speaker will resume with sharing their experience, strength, and hope pertaining to a chosen page from the Big Book. This meeting will be recorded and stored at the Racine Area Central Office. A digital copy will be sent to the Area 75 Archives. You may contact your District 17 Archives Chair to arrange access to these recordings. And they're being put on YouTube as well, so that might be a little easier. Is there anyone here with less than 30 days of sobriety? Could you please raise your hand? Awesome. That's not to single you out, it's just simply to welcome you, so welcome. Is there anyone here with more than 15 years of sobriety? Please raise your hand. All right, the speakers selected for this meeting are old-timers, and an AA old-timer is any member who has been continuously sober for a significant period of time. The definition of significant is open to interpretation and varies widely. For the purpose of this meeting, an old-timer is considered anyone with 20 years or more of sobriety. The old-timers interviews serve as a representation of the significant impact that long-term sobriety can have on our AA community. And without further ado, I will now introduce our speaker, Roxanne. All right.
Hello, everybody. I'm Roxanne D, and I'm going to tell you my sobriety date right away. That is December 29th, 1990.
Awesome. That is quite a long time. Yeah, maybe a little close to that. I want to ask you, who was the United States president when you first joined Alcoholics Anonymous?
I was told George W. Bush.
George W. Bush.
Right?
Is it?
H.W.
Yeah.
Thank you. H.W.
Awesome. Could you tell me when and where was your first contact with Alcoholics Anonymous?
1983 was my first contact with Alcoholics Anonymous. I went to work drunk. I knew they were going to fire me, so I checked into the A Center. And then, of course, at the A Center, they bring you to AA meetings. So I started coming to meetings. It didn't stick, though.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Can you describe what Alcoholics Anonymous was like back then compared to today?
I think back then they were a little more rigid. It was just AA only. If you're anything else, you had to leave. They spent a lot of time playing cribbage here. And when you got in meetings with them, they were gruff. Matter of fact, you need to hear this and that and blah, blah, blah. It was no nicey nice like we do now. Which I guess is okay, but sometimes it's not good when it's a newcomer coming back because we're hurting them. That's my opinion, if we don't get tough on them. So we should do some of that, but not like they did. They were bad.
Gotcha. All right. What were you like as a newcomer, and how do you think others would describe you when you were a newcomer?
Well, what I was like as a newcomer, I called myself shy. I was very shy. I didn't talk at all. I think I went to meetings for almost a year before I said anything more than, "Hi, I'm Roxanne, alcoholic." Because I was afraid I was going to have the wrong answer and you guys were going to laugh at me. So I didn't talk because I didn't know anything. What else? What do I think people thought of me when I was here? That I wanted to be left alone. I always looked like I was angry because we had couches and I'd sit down there like this and wonder why nobody would approach me. I found out later they thought I wanted to be left alone and I was mad. So that's what I looked like to everybody back then.
All right. Who was your first sponsor and how did you end up with them?
My first sponsor was a lady named Kim. And how I wound up with her is there weren't very many women sponsoring back then. And if they were, it was just stuff like take a bath, that'll be okay crap. But at 6 months, I had decided if I didn't get a sponsor, I was leaving. So I heard about a meeting that had just started called By the Book Meeting. So I went there and I was appointed Kim as my sponsor. We didn't get to ask. They told us who our sponsor was. So that's how I got my first sponsor.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Who were the alcoholics prominent in your early years of sobriety?
There was a couple of people. There was Green Dick, especially. He was my service sponsor, and then his little sidekick, Jodan. And I hung around with them quite a bit because I was having personal problems, and they were my protectors to keep me from being hurt. And I also had Willie Brown and Chester. Chester's not here, he's in Milwaukee. But Chester was one of them because I used to use with Chester. And when I saw him here, I said, if he can get sober, I should be able to get sober because he was bad. Not me though, he was bad. So those are people that really helped me want to get sober.
Okay. Can you think of any AA catchphrases from back then that you don't hear anymore or don't hear as often today? And what did they mean to you?
All right, here's a bunch.
Oh boy. Came prepared.
I looked it up. And this has 87 of them. But one of them is, misery is optional. We don't hardly ever hear that. And that's almost the same thing as, how is that working for you? When you're talking about something and you're miserable and you're not doing anything about it. So, or if you are, it's not helping. I heard, how is that working for you a couple times on Friday night when I was talking to people. So I didn't like it very much, So, one that we don't say very often either, but we do say it, resentment is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. And then I've got take what you need and leave the rest. I'm not too keen about that because everything in a meeting I might need someday. I don't want to leave it. I want to store it. So that's what I think it should say, store it for later. And then one more. feelings are not facts. We don't say that a lot. We say it sometimes, but when people are talking, we don't point out to them that feelings don't count for anything, you know, at least not for my activities or what I'm going to do, my actions I'm going to take. They might be important to me, but they're not important to the situation or the actions I need to take. So that's all. If anybody wants to look at these later, they can.
All right, thank you. Did you get involved in service early on, and if so, what did you do?
I did get in service. The group that I was going to by the book at that time, they were very service orientated. So Daryl was in my meeting there, and they said, go to detox. So I was new and he was there a while, so they had put us together to go to detox together. And then again, I didn't do any talking, you guys. I let Daryl do all the talking, and then all of a sudden one day I wouldn't let him talk at all. So, and also Green Dick was another one that early in my sobriety, he got me involved in the district, being the secretary and stuff, because he was like my service sponsor.
Okay.
Yeah, I need something to do, Dick will get it. So, that's...
All right. What kind of events or sober social activities were there when you got sober? And tell us about what those were like.
There were a lot of dances, mostly. And I didn't like them when I first came because, you know, we've all had that problem. When I'm not drinking, I don't know how to dance. I don't feel comfortable. Everybody's looking at me, that kind of stuff. Yep. So I didn't dance for a long time. Me and my sister were coming here together, and we'd sit over that corner over there and just sit there and, you know, and nobody talked to us. There's another one that, it was called the Heart Dances. They were held at the church down the road. And most of them, I think, were to connect people, to, you know, men and women. That's what it seemed like. I only went to a couple and I didn't like them either. So yeah, mostly dances. We did have a few other activities, you know, like the Christmas parties and stuff like that, but that's about it.
Okay. What was your first home group, and why did you decide to make that group your home?
My first home group was by the book, and I made it my my home group because that's where my sponsor was. And I had to be at that meeting. You know, we talk about tough sponsor. She was a tough sponsor. She was at this meeting, I better go. She says, read this, I better read it, kind of stuff. So I just kept going to that meeting because they were studying the book and nobody else was.
Okay. What do you remember most about your first time you sponsored someone?
All right. The first time I sponsored somebody, I was very strict and controlling, just like my sponsor was. You got to do this, and you got to be here, and you got to... And she was nice about it. Sometimes I'd get really mad and yell at them. So I wasn't very nice for a long time because I didn't know how to be considerate and nice, and I was just learning. So I had to take it out on my sponsees and ask forgiveness later until I got to the point where I was doing better. So.
All right. How about the first time you were sponsored?
Well, like I said, my sponsor was very demanding. She was strict. She expected me to call on a regular basis, and I didn't like the phone, so I'd call her while she was at work. So then finally she got on me and said, you got to call when I'm there. And it's like, I don't know what to say. You pick up the phone, what do you say? I don't know. I'm the phone person. So I did, and we started talking. There was trying to think, I just had it in my brain there. I remember we had to do a 4-step, and I looked at it and I didn't really want to do it, so I avoided her for several months, go to different meetings. And then she caught up with me and she said, okay, next Friday you better have it done, we're meeting. So I had to get it done. So tells you how good of a sponsee I was.
What is prayer to you, and what are your prayer habits like?
Prayer to me is having faith and trust in God. That's what it is. And my prayer habits basically start when I get ready to get out of bed, because I thank God for waking up. Because there was a long time in my life I didn't think I was going to wake up, you know, the way we lived and stuff. And throughout the day, I just talk to him, you know, thanks for letting me do this, and, you know, and I'd start singing little songs to him, and, you know, so I have constant contact with him, and it's not necessarily all prayer, because I know God knows what's in my heart, you know, and I can just say a few words and he'll know, like, you know, watch over so-and-so, or, you know, they need help. A couple words. I don't have to go into a big story about their whole situation, so, yeah.
Okay. And then last question we've got is, do you meditate, and if so, how do you meditate?
I tell you, I rarely meditate. I've had a hard time picking up that habit to meditate, but when summer comes, my meditation picks up, because I get to go sit outside with the dogs, and then I'll start meditating and reading my meditation book. But most of the time when it's winter, I don't do any of that. I just get up and go back to bed on the couch, you know, I don't. So I miss out on that, but, you know, I do it. That's it.
All right. Well, that is all the questions we've got. So we are going to take a 15-minute break, I believe. 10-minute break, and then we will come back up here, and Roxanne is going to share a passage out of the big book.
All right.
All right. All right, welcome back to the Racine Archive speaker meeting. And if you wouldn't mind, Roxanne, if you could please turn to and read from a page in our AA Big Book, and spend the remainder of our meeting time sharing your experience, strength, and hope on that reading.
All righty. Again, I'm Roxanne D, and I'm an alcoholic. The one thing that is very important to me is after how it works. Being convinced. We were at step 3, which is that we decided to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Just what do we mean by that, and just what do we do? The first requirement is that we be convinced any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. On that basis, we are almost in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. Most people try to live by self-propulsion. Each person is like an actor who wants to run the show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in his own way. If his arrangements would only stay put, if only people would do what he wished, the show would be great. Everyone, including himself, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. In trying to make these arrangements, our actor is sometimes very virtuous. He may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. On the other hand, he may be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But as with most humans, he is more likely to have varying traits. The reason that's my favorite part of the book is because of all the attributes and defects that it tells me I have. Because I can tell you, I always thought I was the one that was kind and wonderful and all of that, you know. But honestly, I was doing all of that to get my way, to have people do what I wanted them to. And they're right. When that didn't happen, I'd get mean. You know, I'd do manipulation. I would try to destroy them to some extent. And before I came to AA, I didn't realize I was doing that. My head always said, I'm nice, I'm helpful. Because I was those things, but there was always something attached to it. I wasn't just doing it to be good and kind and wonderful. You owe me. It was always you owe me when I do this. So it was hard to take a good look at seeing that part. But the thing that caught my eye, for years, I was trying to figure out, how do I connect to God? I don't know how to get God. And, or am I doing His will? And there was a friend of ours, Jerry Shue, he doesn't come around much anymore. He was very spiritual, and I'd sit next to him and try to rub his arm to get what he had. And I kept telling him, give it to me. Give it to me. And he kept saying, lady, you got to find your own. And I said, how do I do that? He said, you just got to find your own. But one thing that I did see in here after years and trying to figure out, am I doing God's will or my will? It tells us right here in the book that on that basis, okay, wait a minute. Okay, the first requirement is to be convinced any life run on self-will is hardly success. That basis, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. And one day that just hit me, and it's my gauge as to, am I doing God's will or my will? Because if I'm in collision with anybody, even if it's just in my head, it's not a verbal anything, it's in my head, how they're acting and not doing or whatever's going on, I know it's me. It's not what God would want me to do. He would not want me to behave badly to anybody. And the problem with that is sometimes when you hang on to that stuff so long, not only do you get a resentment, I begin to act that behavior out. I'm good at it now, a lot better, but for years, people got yelled at and, put down and all kinds of stuff when I thought they weren't doing what I wanted them to, because I know the program, So that means what I'm telling you got to do, because that is correct. The book says do it that way. Even though I might have misinterpreted the book, they say the black pages, right? And if I read the black pages by myself, I interpret it the way I want it to be. So I have to be careful of that. It tells you that the show doesn't come off well. And still, the play does not suit him. Admitting he may be somewhat at fault, he is sure that other people are more to blame. He becomes angry, indignant, self-pitying. What is his basic trouble? Is he not really a self-seeker even when trying to be kind? Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of his world if he only manages well? you know, and I don't know about you, how many people wanted to spend a lot of time managing their life. I knew, you know, even my family members, I knew what everybody should be doing to be happy, you know, and I wasn't happy myself. I don't know where I came up with the idea. I knew better for them what they ought to do, but I could see it, you know. Like they say, spot it, you got it. Well, I could see what they needed to do to live different. And half the time, it probably wasn't even right. It was just my being self-important, self-seeking, and wanting to keep the show going the way I wanted it. You know, we used to have a lot of family events, and I was the one that, excuse me, I planned them all the time. They expected me to plan them. So, of course, the kind of planner I am is right down to the minute. You know, we're going to do this at 10 o'clock. We're doing it at 10 o'clock. And if something happens, we're getting back in line and getting it done. You know, so I did that for a lot of years. My family put up with it, so I guess it was okay. I thought it was okay. I wasn't doing anything wrong. And then coming around here and getting sober and learning that that's not the behavior we have. Because when I got here, I wanted to do the same thing. Once I got comfortable and started talking, I knew everything, you know. Could tell everybody what they needed to hear and blah, 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 even interfered and all of that stuff. Because I wanted to be important. I wanted people to notice me. I wanted them to think I was great. That kind of stuff. And I'll tell you, that self-pity, that hung heavy when people stopped talking to me or didn't want to be around me, and I'm wondering why. Why? What did I do? I'm only helping. And I ended up having so much self-pity that it was unbelievable. I didn't know if I'd ever get out of it because I didn't know how. It's a good thing I had a sponsor who was helping me go through the steps. And there was things she tried telling me I had to do. Like, you know, I didn't hang around with women. I never hung around with women. I didn't like them. So my sponsor told me after every meeting, pick out a woman that said something that you liked and go start talking to them. So I had to start talking to women. You know, I had to get comfortable. And really, you ladies aren't that bad. If you are, it's because of my thinking, not you. So I'm grateful. She made me do this kind of stuff. She made me hang out with people and do things that I didn't want to, so I could become comfortable in my own skin. And you know, the actor, self-centered, egotistical, as people like to call it nowadays, he is like the retired businessman who loves in the Florida sunshine, in the winter complaining of the sad state of the nation, the minister who sighs over the sins of the 12th century, politicians and reformers who are sure it would all be utopia if the rest of the world would only behave. The outlaw safecracker who thinks society has wronged him, and the alcoholic who has lost all and is locked up. You know, I've had things happen in my life that I thought it was other people. You know, when I drank and I ended up going to jail or some incident happened, I would blame it on the people I went out with. It was their fault. If I wouldn't have been out with those people, this would have never happened. You know, or if I wouldn't have went to this bar by these people, it wouldn't have happened. So what do? I change bars, I change people, thinking that as powerful as I am, I could control that and things would change, and it didn't. It never changed. It didn't get worse, but it kept happening over and over. And, I never equated it with the fact that it was alcohol. I figured it was everything else, that it was okay for me to drink. I needed to drink. And I got to the point where I was an everyday drinker. I drank at work. I drank wherever I could, I drank. And then I'd smoke pot besides. So, I did a lot of that stuff. And when I got into this third step and started realizing, even though I haven't done a fourth step, we start to realize what kind of a person we were. How we acted and what we did. And so here they have the third step prayer, right? God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may let's see, where am I? Got ahead of myself. That I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them will bear witness to those I would help, of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. And what's important about this, it's up to God to relieve me of the bondage. I don't get to say, God, take this away so I can be a better person or do this, He picks it. He takes away my difficulties so that the victory over them, I can help other people. And I've had a lot of things happen in Alcoholics Anonymous that I have been able to not only praise God for it, but to be able to share it with other people, that they can get through it too, that they're not alone. Because sometimes we think we have terrible secrets and we can't share them. And there is no secret that I know of that has not been dealt with in Alcoholics Anonymous. When I didn't want to tell people anything about my life, it was because I was afraid they wouldn't like me. They wouldn't want to be my friend because I wasn't very nice. I was a thief. I became people's friends to rob them. I did, I'd break into your house. I'd get to know your family and you'd go somewhere and I'd break into your house. Now, if I told you that when I first came in, everybody'd say, oh, stay away, stay away. We don't, she might want to get us. Because I hadn't changed anything yet. I was still exactly the same when I got here. My mindset hadn't changed, not even a little bit. But as I worked these steps and really prayed, took a good look at the third step constantly, that God will remove these things. I don't believe He causes them, but I believe He helps us get rid of them if we ask. And I may have to ask members of Alcoholics Anonymous to help me because I can't hear anything out there, because my will and my ideas are so loud. That's all I can hear. So I need to have people talk to me about this stuff and share with me what I might need to do or look at it different instead of selfish and inconsiderate and bossy and trying to pretend to be kind, all of that stuff that I think I do and I don't recognize it. But other people can. Once I start sharing how I'm behaving or what I'm doing, they can recognize what I'm doing. And most of the time I'm not allowing God in. I have looked at that and said, am I doing God's will or my will? Oh, I'm doing my will, but I need it. I need to do it right now. Anybody felt like that? I got to get my will done right now, so I'm going to do it. I don't care what anybody thinks or what the consequences are. And then, of course, now we got to go back and clean up the wreckage, and we have to, do all of that stuff. And if you're like me, I don't like constantly making amends. So I try not to make a lot of problems, make a lot of people angry. First of all, I'm not like that anymore. I can't believe how different I've changed since I came in here, you know. And I don't want to act like that, because once I start acting like that, if I don't put the brakes on, it gets worse and worse and worse, you know. And now we're back doing some of these things we never wanted to do anymore because we had to try it once. Just like having a drink, right? Once I have a drink, I may not want to stop. Well, once I do some of these character defects, they feel good, and I want to continue doing them. And I don't know which ones those might be, so I'm better off not doing any of them. So when I remember who's in charge and how to gauge whether it's God's will or my will, I am much happier, and so are the people around me. Thank you.